I'm Liam Quaid, I'm a Green Party councillor. I want to address this video to the members of the HSE board who are considering a very contentious and a very, very consequential service decision by the HSE, and that is the proposed closure of the Eoin O'Curragh Centre in Midleton, which is East Cork's only respite and long stay mental health service. The Eoin O'Curragh Centre was first established in 1988 when it helped to relocate 35 residents in institutional care in Our Lady's Hospital, and it allowed that first group of people to settle back into their own community. And over the years it has been an exceptional success story in affording people who might otherwise be languishing in long stay wards or living in very precarious circumstances in the community, perhaps with ageing parents unable to cope, with a level of integration, stability, quality of life and connection that they probably otherwise wouldn't have had. And for that reason, the closure announcement last June came as an absolute bombshell to residents and families and the wider community in East Cork. One of the family members of a current resident told me that the Eoin O'Curragh Centre for her relative was transformative and life-saving. And over the past year and a quarter, we have been involved in a campaign to really thoroughly scrutinise the closure rationale, and during that time the Oireachtas Health Committee has engaged at length with the HSE through extended dialogue, examination of building reports, and also with a site visit in March, which included a member of the Health Committee who is a qualified architect with a specialist expertise in healthcare design. And at the end of all of that investigation, which crucially involved engagement with families and residents as well, the Health Committee concluded that the closure rationale was unconvincing, the evidence provided did not stack up, and that if the closure were to go ahead, it would have far-reaching adverse consequences for a very vulnerable group of adults in East Cork. And that is not just current residents, but also the wider clinical population who require those placements to be local and community-based. So that was a very resounding conclusion from the Health Committee. They also gave a very clear recommendation to Minister Butler that the closure should be overturned as a matter of urgency. But since then, what we have seen is the HSE proceed with the closure. And of most concern morally in all of this is that last June residents were written to by local management. They were told that unfortunately the centre had to close because it couldn't meet the high standards of the Mental Health Commission or the standards that you, the residents, deserve. And what we have seen, particularly in recent weeks during the Oireachtas summer recess, is residents being moved, more and more residents being offered or moved to facilities that have consistently received lower Mental Health Commission compliance ratings year on year than the Eoin O'Curragh Centre. And these are also facilities that have other really key disadvantages. So we're talking about moving people from a single room town centre location in some instances to a shared dorm style ward in a relatively isolated setting. And anybody looking at that can see that that's wrong. And it's happening because the HSE believes that it is beyond accountability, despite everything that has been revealed about this, and all of the very intense scrutiny from the Health Committee in particular, and we have more coming from the Public Accounts Committee, and we've had it from the Petitions Committee. And we're really, really appealing to you, the HSE board, to live up to your raison d'etre as an independent oversight body that has a degree of critical distance from the organisation and that has been established to build trust in the organisation. And I think if you go ahead and rubber stamp this closure which is so transparently wrong, and has been based on a false claim that independent reports have supported a contention that the building is beyond repair, when that wasn't the case. All of those independent reports that we eventually obtained set out essential works that needed to be done. None of them at any point said that the works were impossible to carry out. If you as a board stand over that and rubber stamp it, it will discredit the organisation and it will discredit you as a board. And I know that's very plain speaking and it's very strong, statement to make. But we're talking about people's lives here who are extremely vulnerable, people who have gone through really severe levels of distress in their lives, who are very vulnerable, in the context of this decision. And this includes people without a family representation. So I'm really imploring you to make a decision that really reckons with the gravity of all of this and the implications for both current residents and the many other people in East Cork who need these services. We appreciate that the HSE has made a commitment in recent weeks to a new 10-bed service, but we have to look at the practical reality of that. At minimum, that's going to take 4 to 5 years to materialise. We're not even at a pre-planning stage for that service. And the proposition at the moment is to take up the foundations of a service that is working exceptionally well, and disperse those residents, many of whom have been in the Eoin O'Curr Centre for years or even decades, to other parts of Cork City and County. And that is clinically indefensible, and it is at odds with their human rights as people with disabilities, the UN Covenant on the person with a disability to live in their own community. So again, please engage with families and residents and their representatives, and do not rubber stamp this decision.